Recording in progress. So I just do your intro, ask the questions.
Cool.
We go off on tangents.
Right.
I hope my weird, crazy hair cooperates.
I had big plans of washing my hair and styling it today, but instead it got dry shampoo and there's a mess at the back, but we're not going to talk about that. Yeah.
Doesn't matter about the back. How good is dry shampoo?
How good is it?
Life.
Literally saves my life on a very regular basis.
It is the thing that gets me through. And then we just
see what happens.
Sick.
Let's do it.
So we smile. Why is this? Yes. This has gone to one side and it's annoying me because now I'm like not centered. All right, I'll center it. Smile. Hello and welcome to Smart Women in Business vlog and podcast. I'm your host, Jane Mackay from Jane Mackay Communications, marketing consultant and coach who works with people across the world to build the business of their dreams. Today, I'm speaking with my online friend, Claire Riley. Yay!
Hi!
Claire is a professional Virgo, neat freak, organizer extraordinaire, planning queen, opposite of me, a complete business nerd who's obsessed with simplifying, streamlining and systemizing things so you can focus more on your zone of genius. Claire is a content marketing strategist, social media whisperer and process-driven problem solver who also loves red wine, her kids, mountain dawdling and spending way too much time watching reels. Welcome, Claire.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's good to finally connect. It's taken a little while to get here.
It has. We have many chats on Instagram, but not many live face-to-face. So it's very exciting to have you here.
Sure is.
I've known you for a while online. So tell me about your business journey and how you got to where you are right now.
Sure. I've actually just celebrated my 6th business anniversary in this business, which is pretty exciting. I started, a bit of a long story. I guess I started when my kids were babies. My ex-husband, or my husband at the time, was doing FIFO. So, I was kind of there by myself for quite a bit, and working in the corporate world just wasn't quite working, and it wasn't really what I wanted to be focusing on and all that sort of thing. So had some really great conversations with people who I trust and who also had their business, and who became amazing mentors, and kind of, got over that whole, you've got to have $50,000 in the bank and a 500-page business plan to start your business, and just kind of started and did the whole lean startup thing, and started making money really quickly, and was like, oh, this is fantastic. And what I get to choose my own hours as well, and who I work with, like what's that all about? So look, there was definitely some ups and downs over the last 6 years, but the last 2 years in particular have been really about, I guess, working out exactly what does work and how I want to work and who I want to work with and all of that sort of thing. So there's been a few different iterations, and there's been lots of mistakes, and there's been lots of fun. Been lots of tears. It's definitely been an up and down sort of thing, but it's a really beautiful place that I'm in at the moment, with a few different sort of things going on, and the variation between who I work with and all that sort of thing has just been, it's really awesome. It's really cool.
It's a fun old journey when you look back and go, wow, I've actually done this, built this thing from nothing. And I love lean startup.
Yeah.
It's such a good concept and a way to get going. You don't need to have everything mapped out. You just need someone to find you and someone to pay you.
Exactly. Yep. No, it's pretty awesome when you see how much you can start making money before you even spend it. And I'd set up businesses before. I was a remedial massage therapist and a baby massage trainer, and had like a CV and job application, job interview coaching business for a little while, and they were all fine, but I definitely pumped a lot of my money into those to get them kind of off the ground, and only to find that they weren't quite the right fit or what I was looking for anyway. So it was kind of a new concept to go, let's just throw some spaghetti at the wall and actually tap into my gifts and the things that I'm naturally good at, and all the mindset stuff that comes with asking for money for stuff that's really easy to you, but that's a whole other conversation.
We have talked a lot about that on this podcast.
Oh, good.
Money mindset is and mindset itself is one of the biggest barriers, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
In business and at every stage of business. because I don't generally work with startups anymore. I used to a lot. And now it's still, imposter syndrome and all of that. But we'll come to that. So tell me about your evolution. What were the signs it was time to change? Because often our businesses don't look anything like they were 6 years ago or 12 years ago in my case.
Yeah. So I guess one of the big things that there's probably three things. One of them is your products. One of them is the income, and the other one is your time. So I guess if I've sort of separated into like the three things that have always motivated me to make some changes, or the next iteration or the next evolution of my business has been one of those three things. So probably the first one was price. When I first started, I did this special for much to my coach's chagrin. Absolutely, like, don't tell her that I'm putting this offer out there. I did $25 for an hour, which was a tenth of what my hourly rate is now. But I'm such a fan of it, to be honest. And I tell anyone, if that's what helps you put yourself out there for the first time, go nuts. Like, it was such a kind of a baptism of fire. Like, I got 8 people straight off the bat. So I had 8 new clients within the first week of, like, the first day that I put it out there, and I worked with them all in the first couple of weeks. It took the pressure off me because I didn't feel like I had to provide $250 worth of value. All I had to do was like make them feel like they got their $25 worth. And I feel like, that's not a big ask sort of thing. But it also gave me 8 times to practice my craft, to practice the process, to practice the delivery, and to just kind of get over myself and that sort of thing. So in that sense, it was really good. But obviously that's not sustainable. Like, charge $25 an hour, you're going to end up working a lot of hours to pay the bills, right?
Yeah, you're going to cap out pretty soon. Yeah,
exactly. So that was the first kind of thing, like put that up to, I think, 45, and then very quickly up to 75, and then up to 150, and then so on and so forth, and that sort of thing. So that was kind of one of those big things, I think, that forces the evolution of how you're doing things, but also what you're charging $25 for may be slightly different to what you're charging $250 for. So it also forces you to get really niche or really specific on what the outcomes are, or really clear on the value proposition of what you're actually selling and that sort of thing. So I think they're kind of, it's a bit of a which comes first, the chicken or the egg sort of thing. The second thing was around, I remember doing a session with a customer journey specialist on a few other things, including the customer journey. But she said about halfway through our session, Claire, what do you want to be doing in your business? Like, what are the 3 things that you want to be spending most of your time doing? And I, thought for a second, and whatever the 3 things were, wrote them on sticky notes and put them up on the wall. And then she said, and what are the 3 things that are currently taking the most of your time or attention or energy or whatever? And there was no match, right? The things that I was spending most time on were the things that I hated, or that felt really, really hard, or really unfun sort of thing. But and so just seeing that, and now the top thing that I ask all of my clients, like, what are the 3 things that you want to spend most of your time doing? Adjust accordingly, right? And that was a really big eye opener for me, just to go, like, I'm the boss, I make the rules, and I'm still doing work that I hate. Like, that totally defeats the purpose. Like, it's not a job anymore. I can outsource, or I can automate it, or I can stop doing it altogether, or whatever the answer is, So that was a really big thing around the process. But that also then kind of informs your product. So at another point in the evolution, there was definitely a time I did like a stock take, all of my freebies, all of my paid offers, all of my acuity appointment types that people could book with me. And there were literally like probably over 50 things. What am I doing? This is so confusing. It's confusing to me.
I'm very confused. Yeah.
It's very confusing to me. It must be so confusing to other people. So actually getting clear on what were the things that I liked to deliver and what were the profitable things. So all of those sort of things, sometimes you take a hit on one because you just love doing it so much. And sometimes, you hand the other things up because that's where, the money makers are and that sort of thing. But finding a nice happy balance and just having a couple of those kind of baskets made a big difference. So I reckon it's probably 3 or 4 years ago that I made the decision. There were 3 ways. It was going to be VIP, retreats, and Batshit Crazy, which is my online membership.
Which is the best name for a product ever.
Thank you. I should slow it down just in case anyone hasn't heard of it. It's Batshit Crazy. I'm not swearing, I promise.
Batching content.
All about batching content, yes. But as soon as I made that decision and cleared out so much of the other noise and the junk and that sort of thing, a lot of those things then became like bonuses and add-ons and downloads and templates, but I wasn't charging for them anymore because they weren't as valuable as those 3 things. But everything got a lot easier from there because the content that surrounded those 3 things were very specific. The launch period that surrounded those 3 things were very specific. All of those sort of things just became so much easier. And also it made, I guess, my audience and my potential clients be like, oh, she's the one who does the A, B, and C.
Yeah.
There's 3 ways. There's not like, oh my gosh, there's a menu here the size of something that Gordon Ramsay would be freaking out over. It's just 3 things, you know, and often it's the same people who come from one and then go into the other, or, you know, vice versa and that sort of thing. So I guess they've kind of been some of the milestones that have preempted those evolutionary kind of next steps or iterations of the business. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And mentally, you've got to be there. Mindset, you've got to be there, because you can't just create products and set pricing if you're not ready for it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And like I always say, you know, you trust the process, but you can't just trust anyone who says trust the process. You've got to go through the process and stuff a heap of stuff up first. You've got to break some things. You've got to make a heap of mistakes. You've got to, you know, have those moments where you're like, what the hell just happened? What have I done?
What am I doing?
Yeah. And then you see, okay, I'm in this part of the process, because then 5 minutes later, you're back up here in the process, and then you go back down in the process, and then you're back up in the process. And it's not until you've done that a few times, you're like, oh, that's what everyone means by trusting the process. But you can't trust it until you've done the process a bit. So I'm like, trust the process. It's just a nice hashtag, but just do the process and you'll figure it out yourself.
Just keep making progress, and that is the actual process.
Exactly.
And then you come out the other end and go,
that's what just happened.
Right. Thanks. Yeah, cool.
yeah, exactly. There was courses that I was doing that I did, you know, even 4 or 5 times over, and even by the 5th time I was doing the same content that I'd done 4 times, I was like, oh, it makes so much sense now, or it makes sense, or I didn't even hear it the other 4 times because it wasn't what I needed to hear at that point, or it wasn't relevant, or it didn't make sense, or I didn't have the experience to go, oh, I can apply that to my business or whatever, that sort of thing. So I think it is definitely a progress thing, and it's almost sort of cherry picking, you know, the low hanging fruit of what works for you at the moment, or what you need at the moment, or all of that sort of thing, and sort of stitching it together. I always talk about, you know, businesses, especially with startup, and even, you know, through the journey, even my business, I think it's still a bit of a Frankenstein business, and I'm a total tight ass. I hate paying for things. So I do often have like a little bit of that free tool and a little bit of that over there, and I stitch it together and I make it work somehow. And, you know, and I kind of like that. Like it didn't have to be all the bells and whistles and everything in a row before I was like, hey, I've got a business. I'm like, no, let's just start with the Facebook page.
Yeah,
and see
well,
what
a
happens,
MailChimp, and
exactly.
bootstrap it like it's
totally
1999.
Yeah, I'm totally up for it.
Yeah, me too. And then you have a little dabble in products, and then you go, okay, that one's the one. That one's the one.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to play with them. And as you say, you got to break stuff. So how do you manage your life as an entrepreneur? Because I know you have little ones.
Yes.
And we were talking about the chaos earlier.
Yes, we were talking about the chaos. I guess there's a lot of different things. And I think probably the biggest thing that I've learned is that there's no one size fits all. And what works for me today or this week or this month or this year isn't going to work for me tomorrow or next week, and so on and so forth, you know, and giving myself the permission to be less rigid, still have, you know, some structure and that sort of thing, because we all know I'm a typical Virgo and I do love my structure, but I've got safety nets, right? And those are the safety nets that allow me to be more flexible and allow me to play and allow me to be more responsive. And, you know, with you know, best laid plans of mice and men, and then you could get sick and it all goes out the window, or you forget that there was some event on at school and all your plans go out the window and that sort of thing. And I think part of it is being really selective about your messaging and who you work with as well. Like I remember, especially back when I was still quite new, and there was a couple of times this happened, but one specific example where I was spoken to a woman, she was super keen to do some work with me. And then she was like, yep, send me the invoice, sent the invoice, and she'd message to say, I'm really sorry. I can't commit. I was like, cool, no worries. Let me know when you are. And then she kept coming back like 2 or 3 times. And eventually she was like, I'm actually just really worried, because she had a little baby. She's like, he never sleeps. He's, you know, wakes up, and I'm just worried that it's going to be really disruptive to you. And I was like, oh mate, like seriously, I'll have to cancel just as often as you will. My kids were only probably 2 and 3 then as well. I'm like, listen, like I choose to work with mumpreneurs, especially because we get it. Like I'm really selective with that. And if there was someone, I mean, I have to cancel things sometimes, as you've seen. I think we've had to reschedule this like 3 times.
I think it was your kid and then my kid.
Right. But that's cool. And there's no beef. And if there's beef, then we just don't carry on.
We're not a match.
What I mean? We're not a match.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really big part of how I've been able to build the lifestyle around that without the guilt. And it certainly didn't happen overnight. And I was, you know, in my corporate career, I was absolutely, you know, would have been saying, I famously said all the time, like, I never get sick. And if I do get sick, you won't know about it until I'm literally dead in the office and you have to send me home. And then I'll end up in hospital for a week because I've literally let myself get it. But I took loads of pride in that. I thought, like, that's what a good little employee aunt did, you know. So that was kind of my MO sort of thing. And now it's like, I was saying to someone, you know, last year I had a period for about 6 months where I was working such big hours, and they're like, well, like, how many hours were you doing? I was like, oh, maybe like 25 or 30. And then I just felt like, oh my gosh, did I just hear myself say I just worked so many hours, and so many hours was 25 or 30 hours a week for maybe 4 or 5 months? It is a lot of hours. And like, what a blessing that I think that 25 to 30 hours is a blessing. I used to do 60 and 80 hour weeks, like with my eyes closed, you know, no issue, and take pride in that. And like, that was a good thing, you know. So in terms of how I balance things, I guess, that's the main thing, is to be quite selective with, you know, who I work with, and the whole ethos around my brand and my messaging and how I teach, and the sort of people that I want to work with are the same. Like, we have other priorities other than our business. Our business is a massive priority, of course, and we all need to pay bills. But also, the whole reason that most of us started businesses is so that we could have flexibility, more time with our kids, time with our family, time to do hobbies, time to do like whatever it is that we do, not so that we could be a slave to it and feel bad every time we had to make a change or be flexible or, you know, look after our kids, all that sort of thing. Yeah. So I think that's, you know, one of the big things. And I mean, in terms of the practicalities of how I make all of that work, you know, keep going back to the hashtag textbook Virgo sort of thing, but my calendar is kind of my oracle. Like, I do, you know, every time when my computer opens up, the first thing that comes up is my Google Calendar. It's on my phone. Everything kind of runs in there. So the kid stuff, it's color coded. No huge surprises there.
Yeah.
The kid stuff's in there. The recurring meetings are in there. My self-care stuff, like when I go to the gym or if I'm going for a walk, or, you know, all of those things are all in there. And one thing I often teach all of this sort of thing with the market and with the master scheduling and that sort of thing is, when you've got a calendar or a planning system that works, that really helps you make decisions in your business as well, right? Because you go, if I want to be going for a walk 5 days a week, and if I want to be going to gym twice a week, and if I want to be having coffee with a friend once a week, and if I want to be going on a retreat once every 6 months, and if I want to be doing a mosaic table class once a week, whatever it is, it's all in the calendar. And I need to talk to my business mentor once a week, and I'm doing this course and we have live calls this many times. And then you start to see like your windows of actual time for delivery and for income generating things really shrinking. It helps you to get pretty damn clear on A, what you need to be offering, and B, how much you need to be charging, right? So when you go, oh, I want to make $10,000 a month, and then you look at your calendar and you're like, but I've only got 5 hours a week. Right, how am I going to do this sort of thing? Rather than going, I'm going to make $10,000 a month, and then get to the end of the month and go, I haven't even started that thing. I didn't even make any money. What happened there? It's often because we haven't actually worked out the time for money exchange and ratio, or the, you know, leverage products and all of that sort of thing. So I sort of think having your calendar and having your priorities in your calendar and that sort of thing really actually helps you make those decisions. And when you look at that and you're like, well, it makes it a no-brainer, I've got to put my brakes up now. Or it makes it a no-brainer that I need a leveraged product, so it's not just one-on-one or something like that.
And it's interesting. My calendar is my brain, because it saves me remembering anything.
Totally, yeah.
And if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist.
Doesn't get done. Same. No. I'm exactly the same. Yeah.
Because it's not real unless it's in the calendar. But you touched on the guilt there, and it's often a balance for us who are managing our kids and managing the clients. The guilt is a really difficult thing to get over. Yeah. But when you're working with the right type of clients, and I mean, my kids have grown up in this, they have no option, but they're used to it. That's a hard thing to let go of, especially if you've come from corporate, you're used to that really high level of delivery. Like, I hate the feeling of letting people down. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, it's one of the big challenges, I reckon. It is a big challenge. And I think it sort of comes back to that being flexible. Sometimes your children are, I mean, always your children are a priority, but sometimes you're happy to let them
watch the iPad for a couple of hours while you're on calls or doing work. And it's sometimes you're like, no, my kids are they need my time and attention and that sort of thing. And there's no point beating yourself up either way, sort of thing. But yeah, the guilt thing is always a bit of an issue. It's always something to work through. I guess one thing that I think, especially working mostly with women, and you've probably experienced this as well, is that when one of us sort of says, look, I'm not feeling guilty about this anymore, I'm doing this unapologetically, it kind of holds the door open for other people to go like, yeah, that's appealing. Like, I don't want to feel guilty about this shit anyway. And the more that we can, be open about it and honest about it and not have that shame, even if you're saying like, this sucks and I'm really sorry and I'm really embarrassed, but at the end of the day, this is my priority, or my kid's sick, like, you've got to surrender control over that sort of thing. And yeah, it really does kind of make it easier for the people around you to do it. And the more that you see that, you can kind of be a good influence or a